The cosmic laws of harmony. The world that we live in is governed by the laws of nature, which maintain all of the surrounding in a state of perfect harmony. These laws guarantee immutability of all life processes in this ever-changing world. But why and for what reason do these laws exist? Are they accidental, or do they have a reasonable legislator? No scientific methods can directly prove or disprove the divine or accidental origin of these laws. One can only result in logical arguments in favor of one or the other approach. However, it is better to analyze these concepts one by one and look at the prospects for human evolution to which these two different models of origin of the world and laws lead. Atheistic model of the universe, accidental creation. In the natural sciences, there are two known Greek terms: chaos, the complete disorder, and cosmos, the order. The proponents of chemical evolution, that is, the accidental origin of the world, resulting from the Big Bang, believe that the order of cosmos has originated from the state of chaos. Somehow, the strict laws of nature have manifested from chaos without any outside interference. And these laws still remain unchanged, which allow us to make predictable calculations and manipulate matter. According to Einstein's statement, a number of events without a beginning cannot exist. So there was some kind of beginning in the universe, but what kind? A coincidence or a reasonable creative impulse? The starting point of the Big Bang theory is the concept of singularity, or a special super dense and super hot point. As the primary source and the beginning of the universe, this point did not have accessible physical parameters. Furthermore, for some unknown reason, it began to expand. It has released an incredible amount of energy, which in course of time was the main driving force in shaping up our universe. Thus, according to the supporters of the Big Bang theory, chaos turned into cosmos, or disorder, into order. However, in reality, we do not see that order was a result of the explosion. Rather, the explosion creates chaos. To accept that the universe with all its strict laws might have occurred from the big explosion is as naive as to believe that an explosion of a publishing house may result in the multi-volume encyclopedia neatly arranged on a shelf in alphabetical order. The idea of the Big Bang makes some sense only if we assume that this point of singularity was a very special one, which contained all the information about the future universe, same as the DNA molecule that contains the entire information about the human body. In Darwin's time, scientists believed that the cells are simple bubbles filled with chemical elements without any orderly structure. But with the invention of the electron microscope, the DNA molecules have been discovered in the structure of cells. And then it became clear that in this world, along with the inert matter and the forces that drive it, there is also the ordered information that causes changes in the living matter. It is estimated that a single cell contains more information than the 30 large volumes of the Britannica Encyclopedia. The information in the tightly packed structure of the DNA is similar to well-written sentences or computer programs. Everyone knows that any computer software has its own programmer and it can't appear from nowhere. However, with regard to life in the universe, science cannot accept that there is the higher intelligence, which invests the information into matter. Therefore, the concept of self-organized matter, or the accidental occurrence of life without any intelligent third-party participation, requires a really considerable leap of faith. If we accept that life and the universe came into being by chance, without any objective meaning, then in this case people would have to artificially invent the purpose of life to make their existence somewhat meaningful and worthwhile. If the divine plan of creation is absent, then the meaning of life would be simply to plant a tree, raise children, build a house, achieve fame and career success. Those who find neither divine nor a material sense simply embark on the path of self-destruction. Lack of the exalted spiritual purpose is the main cause of degradation of the modern society. Such a world outlook gives rise to consumerism, wealth accumulation, and ruthless exploitation of nature and other living beings. As a result, a society gets immersed in social conflicts and the world experiences environmental and energy crisis. Without a higher purpose of life, people inevitably degrade to the level of satisfying their basic needs. With the increasing materialism, this lifestyle is gradually becoming the norm, and the search for the ideal and the desire for spiritual development are considered an anomaly. In this way, atheism and materialism inevitably lead to a crisis, indicating the innate depravity of these concepts. Intelligent universe. If we consider a scenario of the intelligent creation, in this case, instead of an abstract point of singularity, the cause of all creation is the superintelligent personality who implements step by step his reasonable plan. In this case, matter develops progressively according to a predetermined plan, without any element of chance. And the word cosmos, that in Greek means order, now finds its original meaning. If we see tidiness and order in someone's home, it is obvious that the owners have arranged it for the sake of convenience and beauty. The most frequently asked question about intelligent creation is, if the Creator is the cause of all the creation, then what is the origin of the Creator himself? On the one hand, this is a perfectly reasonable question, but on the other hand, it can go on non-stop, because any reason is a consequence of another preceding deeper reason. Therefore, from the cause and effect point of view, this question remains unanswered forever. And it is the basis of Gnosticism, which is the concept that the world is fundamentally unknown or unknowable. The search for the original cause of all is quite reasonable, but since this research is undertaken in the parameters of ever-changing matter and our mind, limited by the clichés and stereotypes, we quickly come to a dead end. To solve this problem, one needs to approach a higher authority. The most ancient authoritative writings on the earth, the Vedas, solve this mystery with ease. According to the Vedanta Sutra, the absolute truth, or God, is the original source of all, the cause of all causes, which itself has no reasons. Thus, in the case of intelligent creation, the element of chance is completely eliminated, and it means that everything is developing according to the planned scenario. The Vedic treatise, Bhagavata Purana, describes the process of creation in minute details. The Vedas say that at the dawn of creation there was a spiritual sound, Om, which contains all the information about the universe in archived form. The transcendental sound can be compared to a tiny seed from which a huge tree of the universe sprouts. The element of space emanates from sound and becomes a repository for the grosser elements of the cosmos. Space becomes a medium for the dissemination of sounds, which gives us the ability to hear. Next, the air element appears from space, and its movement gives us a tactile sensitivity. The polarization of air masses in space results in an electrical discharge that generates the element of fire or heat. Fire in the form of light enables us to see objects. When fire heats air, it gives rise to the condensation. Thus, the element of water or the liquid state of matter takes place. Due to the water element, we are able to taste. When water dries up, the precipitate remains. That is the element of earth or the solid state of matter. Earth in the form of tiny particles is spread by air, which allows us to perceive odors. In this way, all 5 fundamental elements of creation emanate one from the other and becomes the object of perception to our 5 senses. The creation of the universe goes from the subtle to the gross. Just as we first create a plan or a project and then begin to implement it physically. The purpose of this material creation is to facilitate the souls, which decided to leave the highest spiritual reality in the association of God and wanted to try themselves in His role, in an alternative reality, a virtual playground. God has 2 main functions. He controls everything and He enjoys everything. And the living beings, as His parts and parcels, also try to rule it over and enjoy this world. Therefore, we have 2 objectives in this world to achieve. One is to try ourselves in the role of God, and when this objective inevitably fails because we are not God, then we move on to another objective, a spiritual development, which is the divine plan that we are offered to take up as the main task of our lives. The moral consequence of the intelligent creation idea is that people aim at their highest values of life that make them simple and sublime. Such spiritually motivated people are trying to follow high principles of morality that they perceive as the divine will, and not just as rules of etiquette for the sake of public order. The spiritual value system encourages people to strive for perfection in all respects. Such people do not want to exploit the resources of material nature, but instead focus on building a harmonious relationship with the environment. They see not only national and cultural differences, but also a spiritual unity, which is the basis of respect for each other. By observing the world, one can see that the laws of harmony create common universal values that unite all people. Harmony of colors and shapes creates fine art paintings and architectural masterpieces. Harmony of sounds creates music. Harmony of elements of nature creates ideal conditions for all living beings. For a thoughtful man, it is quite obvious that these world-uniting laws of harmony originate from a single intelligent and harmonious source. The concept of intelligent creation gives life a sublime sense and makes people more peaceful and harmonious. Of course, there are skeptics who'd say that religion is not a panacea for all the problems. And they are right, because history knows many examples of religious conflicts and wars.
That is why we must distinguish between the external religiosity,
which is often tied to nationalism, race and geography, and true inner spirituality. And the ability to distinguish comes from the spiritual knowledge and not just faith. That is why we again and again keep referring to the Vedas as non-confessional, non-sectarian, universal knowledge for everyone. 4 dimensions of reality. According to the ancient Vedic texts, the human activity occurs in 4 dimensions: physical, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Each of these levels of reality matches its unique set of laws that bring one to a state of harmony with the source of all laws, the harmonious and loving being, God. If someone believes that the intelligent legislator does not exist, so why does the violation of these laws of harmony immediately cause disturbance in one's life and environmental disasters at large? Pain, suffering, and anxiety that we experience are natural indicators that the person has deviated from the principles of harmony. If it wasn't for the higher controlling intelligence, then why does violation of the laws bring reactions? And how can blind and devoid of intelligence nature hold us responsible for our own destiny? More and more people accept the idea of a higher intelligence force that is teaching us these laws of harmony for our own benefit. Let us return to the 4 levels of reality in which human life takes place and see how they are interrelated with each other. A soul or a spiriton, being the subtlest structure and the carrier of consciousness, is situated in a denser medium which is called the subtle body or our psyche. The requirements of the subtle body are emotions and information that we exchange with each other. A subtle body is covered over by a physical structure that allows the spiriton, or the soul, to fulfill its material desires. The soul and matter are different substances, and in order for the eternal soul to identify himself with the material body to participate in this virtual game, it requires a whole set of subtle intermediate structures that adapt the soul to matter and encourage him to consider himself a part of this world. These intermediate structures between the soul and the physical body are the mind, intelligence, and false ego that form a temporary substitute for the soul, which is a conditioned consciousness that we accept as our true self. A subtle body can be compared to a computer software that connects the user with a computer system and creates an illusion of the actual presence in the computer, while performing various tasks or playing games. Higher authorities of the universe. According to the Vedas, in order to satisfy the physical needs of all species of life in the universe, there is an interconnected system of supply and maintenance, which can be compared to the enormous public utility services, but on the scale of the universe. We rarely think of how the various cosmic nature's forces are connected. Where do they come from in the right quantity and in the right combination to maintain our physical comfort? According to the Vedas, God, as the absolute source of all energies, provides everything necessary for our life, and his deputies, the demigods, control and distribute these resources on his behalf. For example, the nature's forces such as water or fire in the form of heat and light may seem to be impersonal energies, but they are enabled or disabled in our world by the certain people in charge. Similarly, the telephone and internet facilities can be provided or blocked by the telecommunications provider. And of course, all these services must be regularly paid, otherwise we risk losing these amenities. If we transfer this idea of state ministers on a large space scale, we can understand that the beliefs of ancient people that fire, water, air, and land have their own gods that must be worshipped are not unreasonable. But the big question is, why do we not see these demigods, the space ministers, There are two reasons: physical and moral. Our gross physical senses have a very limited range of perception, and demigods are the beings of a higher dimension. Therefore, they can see us, but we can't see them. We perceive this physical reality by our three-dimensional senses, and only partially. The leading astrophysicist of modern times, Stephen Hawking, argues that we perceive only 10% of reality. Everything else is so-called dark energy and dark matter. But in actuality, it is not dark, but light energy and matter. It appears to be dark only to those who are in a darkness of ignorance. The moral reason is that we cannot see the higher world of the demigods with our low level of consciousness. For example, the administrator of a forum website has access to all of the sections and monitors of the participants, but a guest sees only those pages that he has access to. The restricted sections of this virtual reality are not visible for him, and he may not even guess about their existence. If this user establishes a trusting relationship with the administrator of the forum, he may get an access to other levels of virtual reality that existed before, but were not available. Three qualities of material nature. Life in this world is very diverse, due to the presence of the three qualities of material nature, which in the Vedas are called gunas. Gunas are the invisible energy threads that bind or condition the living entity by a certain type of body and psyche. There are three gunas or modes in total: goodness, passion, and ignorance. The combination of these modes in different proportions generates a great variety of events, tastes, and moods. The three modes influence the entire creation, from microcosmos to macrocosmos. The universe is divided into three levels of existence. The higher planetary systems are under the influence of goodness and are the abode of the demigods and great sages. The middle planetary systems are under the influence of passion and are populated by humans and similar forms of life. The lower planets are inhabited by demoniac living beings that are technologically superior to humans, but from a spiritual point of view are not developed. Due to the influence of their civilization on our planet Earth, the original idea of spiritual progress has been replaced by the idea of technological progress. Despite the fact that mostly the human society is dominated by the mode of passion, the other modes are also present and give rise to different lifestyles. For example, if the mode of goodness prevails, such people are inclined to some sort of spiritual development, and to the purifactory practices, they like to learn and explore the world. They try to avoid unnecessary violence, and in the matters of nutrition, prefer vegetarianism. They are respectful and tolerant, helpful and charitable. The predominance of passion is more evident in the pursuit of external development rather than the internal. Such people like externalities. They like making an impression on others. Economic development, material progress, the pursuit of thrills, extreme behavior, risk impulsivity. These are the manifestations of passion in human consciousness. Under the influence of ignorance, a person manifests qualities such as tardiness, laziness, tendency to sleep long hours. He is not interested in any kind of development. Ignorance pushes him to degradation and time wasting. The modes are invisible, but the consequences are quite obvious and noticed in one's consciousness and behavior. For example, alcohol is in the mode of ignorance and carries the potential of destruction, despite the common myth about the cultural drinking. Just look at one's condition after he has drank from the beautiful bottle, and it becomes clear that alcohol is a product of ignorance. With regard to the social aspect, the predominance of one or the other modes defines the mentality of an entire civilization. Civilization in ignorance cares only for the physical survival and procreation. Such people can live in harmony with nature, but they are not aware of the highest spiritual goal of life. Therefore, their way of life is not much different from the life of animals. Their rituals are primitive and traditions are violent. Civilization under the influence of passion is oriented towards technical progress and concerned solely with material comforts. High speed and technology, mechanization and computerization of the environment, an attractive design and external beauty are the attributes of the civilization in passion. From the standpoint of economy and material comfort, such a civilization is considered to be a model or the first world country and attracts the attention of most people. Civilization in goodness cares about the progress of man and not machines, and helps one to focus on one's spiritual goals. The fundamentals of this culture is the knowledge of the original spiritual nature of man. Therefore, it aims to developing spiritual qualities and divine consciousness. The criterion of success in the Western countries is the consumption of goods and services in ever greater amounts and external comfort, whereas the standards of spiritual culture are simple living and high thinking. Nowadays, more and more people from the first world countries who have been disappointed in the superficial culture of the West go on a spiritual quest to the third world countries in search for internal development, harmony, and enlightenment. The modes are also evident in the professional orientation of people. Predominance of goodness means that a person is more attracted to teaching, counseling, science research, and spiritual practices. The Vedas call such people the Brahmins, or those who know the spiritual nature of reality. The mode of passion makes one more active externally and pushes to activities such as politics and governing. These people are called kshatriyas, or protectors of society. They have congenital organizational skills and leadership qualities. mutual influence of the modes of passion and ignorance inclines a person to business and trade. They are the bakers and businessmen. The Vedas call them Vaishyas. These people know how to increase their capital and are prone to hoarding. Influence of the mode of ignorance motivates one to be a labourer or a skilled or unskilled worker, acting in the sphere of services and entertainment. This type of people is called Shudras, those who serve the rest. People whose profession is associated with goodness bear the ultimate responsibility to society. The professions under the influence of ignorance involves minimum liability. It should be understood that the modes do not indicate the degree of one's intelligence, but rather the nature of one's interaction with other people in the course of professional activity. Originally, the Brahmins were the intermediaries between man and God, and the conductors of higher knowledge in human society. Teachers, mentors, spiritual and intellectual leaders of society. In this way, they were regarded as the highest social group. The Kshatriyas, rulers, interact with people not by teaching them but by establishing the order. The Vaishyas, merchants, interact with people by organizing the processes of production or trade. The Shudras, workers, spend most of their time simply interacting with inert matter. This is why it's considered that their activities take place under the influence of the mode of ignorance. Spiritually, they are all equal and can serve God by devoting their talents and abilities to Him. This spiritual equality between people made the Vedic God-centered society stable and free of class struggle. Three gunas bring diversity even in those areas that are already under the domination of one of the gunas. For example, all plants are in the mode of ignorance, but the ones that give useful fruits have an admixture of goodness. Those that only bloom beautifully but do not bear fruit have an admixture of passion, and those that do not give flowers or fruit are in the mode of ignorance. Among animals, a cow is in the mode of goodness because everything that she gives to people is vital and useful. Even cow dung has the antiseptic properties, which is why in India the cow is considered the most benevolent and sacred animal. The predators look beautiful and impressive, run fast and have the status of masters of their territory, which is an admixture of passion. The slow-moving animals such as cats, sloths, and animals that lead parasitic existence are under the predominant influence of the mode of ignorance. The influence of modes can be felt in every sphere of human life, including how people dress. Those who are in goodness prefer simple, clean, and practical clothes. People in passion love all the bright, fashionable, and defiant. Clothing in ignorance looks grim, dirty, with intimidating symbols. The gunas affect not only the external aspects of life, but also the inner beliefs. People in goodness respect the laws of God and try to live in harmony with the nature's forces. People in passion abide the laws only at the level of nature and social relations, while neglecting the higher laws. People in ignorance respect only the criminal world laws, where survival of the fittest is unavoidable. The moral laws, and especially the laws of God, are not held in high esteem. All people follow some laws, but depending on the modes, they understand and accept the laws at different levels. three modes are also associated with three basic processes that are taking place across the board in matter: awakening, development, and dissolution. Beginning with human daily activity and ending with the foundation, development, and collapsing of entire civilizations. These three forces, according to the Vedas, are under control of the three major deities of the universe. The first of them is Vishnu. He is the source of goodness, and therefore he awakens and supports all material creation. Brahma creates the world and gives it an entire development. Therefore, he controls the mode of passion. Shiva is responsible for the destruction and degradation processes in the universe and is the controller of the mode of ignorance. Observing such a pervasive presence of the modes, one may pose a question whether the influence of the modes on a particular person is permanent, unchangeable, predetermined by fate, or something that one can change. According to the Vedic concept of karma and reincarnation, we carry over a certain conditioning from our past life. In other words, we spend today what we have earned yesterday. Therefore, partially, the combination of modes is already predetermined at birth. But since a material life is ever-changing under the influence of time, various changes in life are quite possible in the direction of progress as well as towards degradation. Therefore, despite some inherent tendencies, it is possible to choose the effect of higher modes, and this is the primary responsibility of a civilized man. We all want to improve the quality of our life, but unfortunately we think only in economic terms. We'd love to have more money, more facilities, and more comforts. However, the Vedas state that improvement of the quality of life primarily means changing the modes that we are affected by, regardless of the economy. That is, we can rise from the predominant mode of ignorance to goodness. And since the modes primarily affect our consciousness, our inner state, the same mode of goodness will make a person happy regardless of external circumstances. Three elements of habitat. The Vedas, in describing the material realities, claim that a person exists in three main elements of habitat. The first element of habitat for the soul in the material world is a subtle and physical body. The mind is a projection of the soul's consciousness onto matter, and the physical body is a product of the mind. The second element of habitat is a society around us, which is based on laws of morality and social development. The third habitat is cosmos and laws of the universe. All these elements are permeated with unified laws of harmony emanating from the Creator. To live in harmony means to enact the laws that underlie these three spheres of habitat. The closest habitat to the soul is a subtle and physical body. If we feed these two bodies with food and information in the mode of passion and ignorance, then it will negatively affect the consciousness. Substances in ignorance such as tobacco, alcohol, and drugs unavoidably lead to diseases. Food in ignorance, such as meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, contains a lot of cholesterol and in due course of time has a devastating effect on the cardiovascular system. Such food is a source of bacteria and viruses. By eating these kinds of foodstuffs, people become more susceptible to poisoning, stress, and depression. If a person constantly fills one's subtle body with the negative information such as aggressive action movies, horror, erotic films, or computer games, it will be disturbed by strong material desires, fears, and baser emotions which lead to stress, depression, neuroses, and obsessions. If we nourish our physical body with pure and healthy food in the mode of goodness, it will be healthy. Our psyche becomes stable if the mind receives proper association and information in the mode of goodness. The second element of habitat is a society, which reacts immediately to the violation of its laws. The principles of harmonious relationships with other living beings are addressed in all the sculptures of the world. For example, in the Bible there are the commandments: do not kill, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not commit adultery, and others. What happens to a person who always cheats, steals, commits violence, and insults others? In doing so, he very quickly loses trust and respect of others, and as a result may even lose his freedom for such a conduct. Therefore, a society around us, as well as our own body, requires us to follow the laws of goodness, that is, compliance with the rules of relationships and human morality. How does the human nature of the cosmos react if people are ungrateful to the gifts of higher powers? If the entire nations deviate from the path of goodness, then the material nature arranges serious shake-ups in the form of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, droughts, hurricanes, and floods. It's quite strange that not everyone sees these manifestations as personal intervention of higher powers, but calls these disasters the blind forces of nature. If someone is yelling or stomping one's feet, we understand that it is the wrath of a living person. However, when we see the devastating effects in the material nature, few people see it as a reaction of higher powers. A simple example: if a mosquito bites a person kills it without a second thought, despite whether a mosquito understands it or not. For a mosquito, it can be a strike of the blind forces, but a reasonable person understands that this is a reaction to its bite. In human society, we call our planet Mother Earth. However, at the same time, we drill wells into the Earth's body, change the river's direction, pollute water and air, and mercilessly cut down forests. In doing so, people inevitably inflict the natural disasters that are Mother Earth's reaction. When the entire human civilization strays a long way from the right path and continues to persist in its ignorance, paying no attention to warnings, destroying everything around, then inevitably the universal cataclysm occurs that puts an end to a degraded civilization. Thereafter, a new cycle of universal creation begins, and the living beings are given ideal conditions and a new chance for a harmonious life. The stages that the universe goes through can be compared to a PC operating system, which gradually accumulates errors and starts working slower and slower. Eventually, it fails, and the user must reboot or reinstall the entire operating system. As a result, the old is destroyed and a new cycle of life begins. Four pillars of goodness. So, what constitutes the mode of goodness, which allows one to be in harmony with one's mind and body, as well as other living beings and the world in general? The Vedas say that the mode of goodness has four pillars: compassion, purity, control of the senses, and truthfulness. The practical embodiment of mercy is a commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." But nowadays, for some reason, it only applies to humans, not the animals, although Jesus said that we should have love for our younger brothers. The principle of mercy is used quite selectively. For example, we love cats and dogs, calling them our friends, but ruthlessly slaughter cows. Such a strange selective mercy. Actually, the real mercy begins with what we eat. Therefore, adopting a vegetarian diet is one of the first steps on the path to genuine mercy and development of goodness. The second pillar of goodness is the principle of cleanliness. As the proverb goes, cleanliness is next to divinity. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness is a daily hygiene. The Vedas recommend a person to get up before sunrise and take a shower. Inner purity is achieved by rejection of all kinds of intoxicants, alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. People who use these poisons inevitably develop unclean habits. Also, these harmful substances weaken the willpower of a person, making one easily agitated and prone to negative influences. The third pillar of goodness is sense control, asceticism, or restricted sex life. According to the Vedas, sexual relationships are permissible only in marriage. One should refrain from sexual activity before marriage. For the modern man, brought up on the philosophy of Sigmund Freud and frivolous morals of so-called free society, this rule may seem to be an attack on the sacred. According to the teachings of Freud, humans are deeply sexual, and if we do not implement this energy through carnal love, this energy will at best be sublimated into creativity or spirituality, and in the worst case, this energy will become a source of unconscious aggression and anger. In this way, sexuality becomes the primary activity, and spirituality and creativity are considered as secondary areas, which are directed by the transformed sexuality. But the Vedas give us a completely opposite picture. Humans by nature are deeply spiritual, and if we do not implement our spiritual potential, this energy of love of God will transform into mundane lust. Kundalini, or the vital corporeal energy, moves from the higher to the lower chakras, and the person simply turns into an animal, not literally but in terms of his desires and aspirations. However, it's a fact that even animals use the sexual instinct solely for procreation in particular seasons. Therefore, a person with the help of a higher consciousness is able to overcome this animal instinct by cultivating the highest culture and the spiritual taste. The yoga practice is recommended in this regard to purify the energy of divine love in our heart from carnal lust. But the transformation of lust into love is not such an easy task, and in fact is a lifelong business. Nevertheless, it is a primary task of a human being.
The fourth pillar of goodness is the principle of truthfulness.
Truthfulness is destroyed by deliberate lies and gambling. There are so many unintentional lies in the education system when scientists and teachers quite frankly falsify the history of mankind by teaching the children a completely unscientific and naive Darwinian theory of the origin of man from apes. To be truthful means to accept the truth from a higher source, or God, and live it in accordance with the principles of eternal love and harmony. So, the four pillars of goodness are the basis of human morality. It is assumed that truly spiritual people, as a minimum, follow these principles. Ten sources of goodness. By disregarding the laws of goodness, a human society unavoidably falls into passion and ignorance, which turns the whole world into hell. However, it can be avoided if people understand the subtle laws of goodness and begin to put them into practice. In this regard, the Vedas offer 10 ways of developing the mode of goodness. 1. The best conductor of goodness is food and water, therefore they must be in goodness. clean water and vegetarian food are an indispensable guarantee of health. The human body consists of almost 80% water, and the quality of water affects not only health, but also the mindset of a person. Nowadays, people drink mostly water contaminated by chemicals. It is best to drink pure spring water, natural herbal teas, or fresh juices. 2. The next source of goodness is a place of residence. A countryside and wildlife are the places that carry the energy of goodness. Modern cities are the places of passion, and venues such as nightclubs, bars, and casinos are the places of ignorance. It is not recommended to live near the hospital, factory, prison, or cemetery, as these places emanate negative energy. If a person does not have the opportunity to live in a clean, natural environment, then at least it is advisable to take short trips to those places on a regular basis. Three, different times of the day also carry the energy of different modes. For instance, in the morning, 2 hours before and 2 hours after dawn is the time for the mode of goodness. It is considered the most auspicious time for spiritual practice, and it gives the opportunity to focus on spiritual truths and values. This power of goodness protects one from the stressful situations and helps to overcome the difficulties of the day easier. During the day, up until the sunset, the mode of passion dominates and pushes people to engage in various activities. After the sunset, the greater effect of ignorance increases, and people are no longer able to be active and to think clearly. If a person doesn't go to bed and watches TV or on the internet till late, it will be very hard for him to get up early in the morning. In this case, a layer of goodness is practically absent in one's life, and a person bounces between the ignorance of the night and the passion of the day without getting any adequate support and protection of goodness. Four, a circle of our interaction with others is also the conductor of the three modes. Association or interaction in ignorance is an association in a bad company with alcohol drinking. As a result, it drives one to self-destruction or activities harmful to others. Association in passion stimulates one's ambitions and inspires for material development. Association in goodness gives one a correct understanding of life and inspires for spiritual progress. 5. The next source of the modes is our activity or work. Activity in the mode of ignorance is the one that destroys the environment and is based on violence to other living beings such as animal slaughter, butchering or fishing. Also, the activity in ignorance is production and sales of tobacco, alcohol and drugs, and everything else that contributes to the degradation of people. Activities in passion is one that contributes to material progress. Hoarding, gaining popularity and fame, but not due to the degradation of others, but rather through one's own efforts and creativity. Activities in goodness aim at a person's inner purification and not at the external superficial success. It could be a selfless community work, charity, and spiritual education of society. Six, ceremonies, festivals, and rituals have a significant impact on our body and consciousness. Ceremonies and festivals with the bloody animal sacrifices, with alcohol or with invocation of spirits from the lower worlds, are manifestations of energy of ignorance. Public holidays with a demonstration of military forces, sport competitions with an intention to prove one's superiority, as well as all sorts of carnival and public spectacles that emphasize the strength and beauty of the physical body, are the events in the modes of passion. Celebrations and ceremonies in goodness contribute to the development of one's spiritual consciousness. They are the real holidays, holy days. Original holidays have been related with the spiritual events, such as the appearance days of God's avatars in this world, or the commemoration or glorification of the saints. These celebrations make a person spiritually joyful and elevate one's consciousness. Seven. The Vedas say that the books or scriptures that we read are also the conductors of different modes. The films and the movies could also be included into this category. The books and movies in ignorance contain violence, sex, or horror scenes. The books and films in the mode of passion are based on mundane sentiments and temporary romantic love. They emphasize the notion of consumerism, external success, and false prestige. The books and movies in goodness remind a person of one's eternal spiritual nature and the ultimate goal of life. They encourage contemplating about the inner transformation and self-improvement. 8. Other sources of the modes are songs, prayers, and mantras that we listen to and sing. Curses, black magic spells, songs and music glorifying violence and stimulating vandalism or other lower emotions carry the potency of ignorance. Prayers for the sake of material welfare and prosperity, as well as popular hits that evoke mundane feelings and worldly attachments, are in the mode of passion. Mantras and prayers, selflessly glorifying God, describing a spiritual reality, songs containing a philosophical and spiritual outlook on life, music soothing and uplifting consciousness, are the conductors of goodness and the spiritual energy. Nine. Meditation, daily contemplation, or focused thoughts are another conductor of the three modes of nature. A meditation in ignorance is the thoughts or plans of violence against others. The thoughts implicated by envy, anger, and desire for revenge. Depressive state of mind that brings one to the edge of committing suicide or useless violence. Thoughts or plans for the fulfillment of personal ambitions, with a desire to prove one's superiority and demonstrate one's wealth or success, as well as thoughts about sense gratification, are a meditation in passion. But thoughts and plans for the purification of one's own existence, a meditation which helps to understand the difference between the soul and the body, the inner desire to know God and desire to serve Him, is a meditation in goodness. And the final source of the modes is one's birth. A birth in a family of drunken and morally degraded parents is in the mode of ignorance. Upon growing up, these children rarely become prosperous people. Parents who think only of their own passion give birth to children with similar desires in order to continue their dynasties. Those who follow the science of conceiving children, as it is prescribed in the Vedas, who cares about the material and the spiritual health of the future generation, give birth to children in goodness. Such parents perform all the necessary rituals before conception, during pregnancy and after childbirth, to make sure that children receive the necessary spiritual purification and impressions that contribute to their inner growth. But even if we were not born in such a family, the Vedas say that we can fix this defect of our physical birth by receiving the second birth, or initiation, from a bona fide spiritual teacher or a guru. The spiritual teacher becomes one's spiritual father and imparts the transcendental knowledge in this process of initiation. In this process of initiation becomes one's divine birth. The results of this second birth are the spiritual knowledge and spiritual strength that help a person to get rid of one's weaknesses and attachments and give the opportunity to develop a pure, selfless love of God. And this is the key or guarantee of our return to the spiritual reality, full of eternity, knowledge, and happiness. Options for development of humanity. There are two major reasons why life in goodness is preferable for a civilized man. First of all, it gives a person the first-hand experience of the highest quality of life, that is, pure food, spiritual literature, pure knowledge, pure forms and images, and pure sounds, which brings one to a perfect harmony with one's body and mind, other living beings, as well as the world in general. Second of all, the mode of goodness creates ideal conditions for spiritual development. It is the highest of the material energies and therefore makes the body healthy and the mind clear and stable, which is very important for the development of spiritual knowledge and meditation. Therefore, life in goodness is the path of progress because it gives a person the best quality of life. The mode of goodness is the basis of morality, which is the foundation of spirituality. If you decide to fly to another city, before you board the plane, first you need to get to the airport, as planes fly only from there. Similarly, it is impossible to practice yoga or any other form of spirituality unless one is established in the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is achievable if you know how to extract it from this world and practically apply it in your life. If a person is not yet ready to fully live by the standards of goodness and he is still attached to the values and tastes of the mode of passion, at least the mode of goodness should be present as a reasonable sense of self-control that will regulate passion. If this balancing element of goodness and a regulating sense of self-control are not factored in, then all our passion, sooner or later, will lead to ignorance. But ignorance should be completely excluded from the person's life, because ignorance leads to degradation. In fact, if a person does not live by the standards of goodness and finds one's satisfaction in passion and ignorance, this is the path of degradation. Modern materialists are not even able to extract the higher quality, the mode of goodness, from matter, and are forced to be content with a superficial and short-lived happiness in ignorance and passion. Moreover, such an existence deprives a person of a conscious and stable spiritual life. And even if such people become believers, their faith is sentimental and not supported by the spiritual knowledge and practice. People in passion and ignorance cannot avoid sinful activity, and they have to constantly repent, sin again and again to repent. At best, they have faith, but not a full spiritual life. Under the influence of materialism, the idea of progress has changed dramatically. If previously people valued the exalted personal qualities, and the term progress meant a spiritual development and bringing oneself closer to God. However, nowadays, progress means a development of body, mind, and intelligence, as well as the development of science and technology. Such a superficial progress without the development of morality and spiritual qualities leads to a shift of emphasis in the value system, and that leads to a misuse of knowledge for destructive purposes. That's where the weapons of mass destruction and the might is right concept come from. If this is called a progress, it is very one-sided, as the spiritual needs of people are not addressed. Man is not able to create the fundamental laws of nature. The real laws are unchangeable and valid all the time, everywhere and for everyone. We can only discover them and follow them for the common good. And the more clearly we understand the laws of harmony, the more harmonious our life becomes. And the most important discovery that a person can make is to discover the source of these laws. Where there are laws, there is also the legislator. Laws bring harmony and order in our lives, and the order is a requirement of the individual. The Vedas call the Supreme Person either by the name Vishnu, which indicates the aspect of God's powers, or by the name Krishna, which points to his loving and all-attractive nature. If we do not understand that these laws emanate from the Supreme Person, then life for us is just an incomprehensible sequence of accidents. However, no one can evade these laws, because they are as all-pervasive as God himself.